In the early 2000s, Warner Brothers did something that seemed impossible. They managed to fail with a movie about the most popular female superhero at the time. Warner are notorious for making comic book adaptations that fail at the box office, but with Catwoman, they outdid themselves. In the early 1990s, the studio nearly went bankrupt with the Batman Returns marketing campaign. All because people kept stealing Michelle Pfeiffer's promotional posters all over the country as soon as they appeared. Her character was so popular that the studio wanted to make a standalone film about her back in the mid-1990s. However, Joel Schumacher's failure with Batman and Robin and Michelle Pfeiffer's refusal to reprise her role as Catwoman derailed the plans. In the late 1990s, the studio abandoned the idea of a film with Michelle Pfeiffer and chose to create something new and unique. Starting then, the studio decided to make every mistake imaginable. We'll never know whether it was just some kind of flash mob or just someone from management trying to bring some excitement into their boring life. The fact remains that Warner Brothers began making weird decisions one after another. First, the studio decided to part ways with actress Ashley Judd, who was cast to play Catwoman in the very early stages of production. Next, they dismissed director Darren Aronofsky, known for Requiem for a Dream. At the time, Darren was working on a new Batman movie that would include Catwoman. The studio wanted a trendy and youthful movie, so they needed someone known for their bright and stylish approach rather than someone from the independent film scene. Among those who met these requirements was the French director Pitoff, who had just released Vidic. At the time, Vidic was heavily promoted as the first film shot entirely with a digital camera. Pitoff later stated that he did not want to film Catwoman, according to the studio's script. He said he had a couple hundred more interesting ideas, but the studio told him to stop fooling around and work with the script they already had. Like many creators, Pitoff believes he could have made a great movie if not for evil studio officials, who desperately needed some terrible film to waste hundreds of millions of dollars on. The film's lead actress, Halle Berry, also stated that she didn't like the script, and that she wanted to star in Aronofsky's film rather than whatever the studio produced after his departure. In other words, she was not the one to blame either. There was nothing she could do, and she certainly didn't read the contract because why would she? The situation with the main character's costume was especially strange. It turned out that no one showed the clothes to the test group. The studio simply decided that such a costume was precisely what the audience wanted. Only after the premiere did everyone suddenly realize that the outfit was more suited for something else, and would likely cause laughter in movie theaters. But during post-production, things were different. The costume was great, of course, but what the studio was thinking when adding it to the film is still a mystery. To top it all off, the main character was Patience Phillips, not Selina Kyle. At the time, no one really appreciated the twist, but the filmmakers said that they wanted to create something original, rather than capitalize on Selina Kyle's popularity with young audiences. The studio allocated $85 million for the film. It wasn't that much for a comic book blockbuster, though some other similar projects cost even less, such as the first film in the X-Men franchise and the Ben Affleck movie, where he showed how good he is at standing in the rain. In other words, the studio spared no expense for the film. The filming went smoothly without any major incidents. Well, except for that one time when an expensive set piece fell on Halle Berry and she had to be rushed to the hospital. The first test screenings were a disaster. The audience laughed where they shouldn't have and cried during the funny parts. The studio quickly sent the film for reshoots to make changes and try to improve the situation. All content that caused the most confusion among test audiences was removed from the film. Naturally, reshoots did not help the situation, but they did increase the film's budget to $100 million. With no other options, the studio reduced Catwoman to an hour and a half and sent it to theaters. Nowadays, the film would do better at the box office, given the actress's skin color, the strong and determined woman as the main character, and the current popularity of Marvel and DC films, which gross hundreds of millions of dollars. But in those ancient times, equality wasn't a popular concern, so viewers and critics treated Catwoman similarly to films like Ghost Rider and The Punisher, released around the same time. The failure was deafening. The movie only made $80 million at the box office. Following a Hollywood tradition, everyone involved in the production started denying responsibility for the failure. Some said they were not allowed to do what they wanted. Others were forced to follow contractual obligations or were shown some other script, and so on. To put it simply, no one stood up for the film. Right after the premiere, Sharon Stone, who played the villain, asked the studio to remove Benjamin Bratt from the upcoming Basic Instinct 2. Stone allegedly claimed that she had never seen a worse actor in her life after watching him in Catwoman. Director Pitov's career was basically over. His filming style received more criticism than anything else, and the basketball scene has become a classic example of a terrible production. Catwoman received 7 Golden Raspberry Award nominations and won 4, including Worst Picture, Worst Director, and Worst Actress. By the way, Halle Berry arrived at the Golden Raspberry ceremony while carrying her Oscar, which she had won a couple of years earlier for her role in Monsters Ball. The studio quickly abandoned their plans for a sequel and chose to forget about the film altogether. And they did forget about it, so much so that Wonder Woman, with Gal Gadot, was seriously promoted as the first female superhero movie. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and stay tuned.